So welcome back to part 3, which is how we go about backtesting, and this is a little more involved, but let me take you through it. So in order to, let me explain what backtesting is. So backtesting is taking an EA and running it against historical data to find out how it would have performed had you been running it in the past. And caveats apply to backtesting because of course most EAs have been tested against historical data, so they're going to perform well. So it's not a completely useful test in saying will it perform well in the future, because that's unknown. But what it will show you is how it performed in the past and the way in which it performed, so you can then make a view as to how likely it is to perform well in the future. Now the first thing you need to do is to get some historical data. And if I put this up to say the monthly, so the monthly data here goes all back to 1991, which is fine, which is quite interesting because I'm pretty sure the euro didn't exist in 1991, but never mind. But if we look at the weekly data goes back less far, and the daily data goes back less far, and so on and so forth. And so the 15-minute data probably doesn't go back more than a few months. So the first thing we need to do is to get some more data so we can do some sensible backtesting. And this is where we go into the History Center. So go into Tools, History Center. And this is where you'll see twisties for all the different instruments that are available. Now we're going to go into the euro dollar because this is the currency pair that Exploding Fish works on. So I'll double click that. What I see here are all the different time frames that we need to backtest, and we need to fill all of these with data. So if I click on the 1 minute data tab twice, it's telling me how much data there, and his 1 minute data goes back as far as March in 2013. So we need to import more data. So if we click the Import tab and then click on Browse, what I now need to do is to look for some data, and funnily enough, as if by magic, I happen to have in here, in this Forex data file, some historical data, and this can be downloaded. If you go into the forum you can download this. It's simple comma separated value data, but it's all in one place. Let me close that down. So I'm now going to go into, it happens to be on my desktop, Forex data. So we go into the Euro USD file. I select the 1 minute file and I click open. Now it will take a while to populate. There's quite a lot of data. You can imagine that 10 years of 1 year data is quite a lot. It will say not responding. It will respond. Okay, and if we look at this now, this is the 1 minute data it's got. It goes as far as 2011 and goes all the way back to 2001. So I click on OK. And I'm just going to check that all that data is in there, and it is. Now in this case it's actually a gap because the data I've imported only goes up to 2011, and then it jumps to the broker's data on 2013. So if you were going to test the years in between, you would need to upload more data, and you can do that. The data source I use for this is the FX Trader 2. So in fact, let me tell you exactly what it's called. It is called Forex Tester 2 is where this data comes from. So where are we? We're back in here. Okay, so I know that's been imported. So what I'm now going to do is do the same for the 5 minute data. Import. And again, because it's quite a lot of data, click the Browse button. 5 minute. Just check that it's now updated with 5 minute data. Click on OK. Repeat the same for the 15 minute data. Again, just check you've got a 15 minute difference there. You can really screw things up by importing the wrong time frame data into the wrong place. Import again. 30 minute data. Import the 1 hour data. Import the 4 hour data. I'm sure get the habit of how this is done, get the pattern. Import the daily data, import the weekly data, and obviously as the time frame gets bigger there's less data to import, so the import process gets faster. And finally the monthly data. Okay, and now what we have is a full set of data for each of those time frames. So now let's look at how we go about and backtest this. So if we go into Tools, I beg your pardon, it's View Strategy Tester. A new box opens at the bottom here, and this is the. I'm just going to close this that terminal window down. And this, from here we can choose the expert advisor we want to test, which is exploding fish. We can turn the time frame we want to test it on, which is 15 minutes. The symbol we want to test it on, which is the euro dollar. Every tick, which is the most accurate method of testing. It doesn't actually test every tick because it doesn't have every tick, but what it will do is simulate those ticks. And for 15-minute data it's fine. The dates we're going to use are between, if you double click on here, so we're going to test it between 2001 and 2010, because that's what the data we've just loaded. You can test it, but as long as you've loaded the data you can test it any time period you want to. Now what we need to do is just go onto the Expert Properties tab, because this is where we need to make sure we've entered things like the key, because otherwise it won't trade. So the key is, we're going to test it on risking 0.5% per trade, and everything else is the same. Now, just as a reminder, we're putting the same settings in here that we've put in here. These two things are not related. The fact you've put it in here doesn't mean that the strategy tester is going to know about it. We can also look at the symbol properties. So in this case it's testing it with a spread of 1.6, which, just check that's reasonable. There are two ways of testing it, and we're just going to start off with visual mode. Now visual mode is a lot slower, but will allow you to see what's going on and is a useful way of checking it. So we're now going to hit the start button. And I'm going to change this window to the blank setting we had earlier, just because it's easier to read. Now again, what it's doing is simulating the data back from 2001. Check these error messages. If I put in the wrong key code, it would have an error message up here. And we can use this button to speed it up and slow it down. Okay, so here's an example. I've just slowed it down again. It's drawn. You can see some trades here that have been opened and closed. This is a trade that happens to be open. So you can watch it, and you can either watch it in slow motion. It's quite interesting to watch and see how it works. But let me show you some other tabs down here. You've got the settings tab, which we've just looked at, for controlling everything and speeding it up and slowing it down. You've got the results tab, which is every single trade, when it was placed, the stop loss level it placed, and you can see we've had two sets of losing trades here. The equity graph, which says, you can see here, this is as the trades were closed out. Each one of these numbers is one trade, so it opens 4 trades at a time. So basically we've got trade 1, trade 2, trade 3, trade 4, all closed out as a loss. Oh, and we've now had a winner. So the first trade's closed here as a winner. So you can see it's updated this this graph. And what it's saying, it's closed out this trade as a winner, but because the other 3 trades are in profit, the equity curve, i.e. how much we've got if we close everything out, is up there. And you've got a report which at the end of the test will tell you how much we won and lost, and the journal which shows you everything that's going on. So it'll tell you when trades are being modified. It's really useful to get an idea in playing with these. And certainly with the journal, if we've got any error messages such as there's no data, or the data quality is very poor, it's in the journal, you'll find out about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed this up now, so it's quite fast to watch, but we can then watch trades closing and open. In fact, you probably can't, but you can watch different trades going through. It's going too fast to update that. So if I just slow it down, there are some more winners that are closed out. If we now go back to the graph, you can see what's happened here. So you can see up here is the trades have opened and closed profitably, losing streaks, profit, etc. And down here it's telling you the size of these trades. So if we click on, if we hover the cursor over any of these lines, it's telling us that trade 661, the balance was $15,995, and you can see what it's doing. And likewise, you can hover over here and find out what the lot size was based on that. So each lot size is 0.3. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop that. And then if we look at the report, it tells us for the trades we've taken, that was the deposit, that was the profit. The total trades were 316. The largest trade was $750. The average trade was. You get lots of good information there. That was in visual mode. If I unclick visual mode and repeat the whole process again, you don't get this window being updated. What you do get is a lot faster run through of the system, and what you'll see here is that system running through, updating the equity curve as it goes along. And you can do the same thing. You can hover and find out where you are on the system. Slightly more difficult. There, it gives you an idea of what's going on. And on the settings bar you get an idea of how much data is still to go through. And you can scale this window up and down to your heart's content. You can move these lines up and down if you're more interested in that. You can. The reason this has gone flat is in the EA I set a maximum lot size of 50 lots, simply because at the time that was the limit my broker imposed. So it was pointless me trading with more than 50 lots because my broker wouldn't allow me to do it. So we've nearly finished. And when we've finished, it will then publish the report into this report screen. So there we go. And you can see that basically over the 10 years, the net profit of back testing is 7.5 million, and you can get an idea for what's going on. I'm just going to pause this a second.